this government, our administration, wanted to worry about Iraq, not Iran. I knew why, because I'd been through the Pentagon. Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Dunnon, will deliver a brief statement today on the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th terrorist attacks. He will take your questions afterwards. If you are called to ask a question, please remember to state your name and your news outlet. Thank you.
Good afternoon. October 7 wasn't just another dark day in Jewish history. It was our worst nightmare realized. Hamas terrorists invaded our communities in order to massacre, rape, and kidnap our brothers and sisters. They showed no mercy, slaughtering men, women, and children, ripping apart families, and destroying entire communities. Today, at 3 p.m., we are holding a memorial for the victims here at the United Nations, an institution that has failed us time and time again. When the massacre of October 7 unfolded, the UN refused to act. It couldn't find the most basic morality to condemn. One condemnation of the brutal murder of innocent civilians, and it could not bring itself to call out the atrocities for what they were. Instead of standing with the innocent, this institution remained silent. When it finally found its voice, it did not speak for justice. It chose to vilify us, the country fighting to protect its people from the monsters who massacred us. The UN has failed in its most basic mandate to protect the innocent and condemn evil. We are following what's happening in Israel. Earlier today, we intercepted a ballistic missile that was launched from Yemen at our civilians in the center of Israel. And we will continue to monitor what's happening. We continue to fight in multiple fronts. We are deploying all necessary capabilities against our enemies, both in defense and offense. And I can tell Iran and their proxies, they should know, we will decide when and where, but there will be a response. There will be a response. We will ensure that all those who seek to destroy us will pay the price for their actions. Thank you.
Ambassador Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Has Israel decided when and where to strike back against Iran?
We are debating it. and the cabinet met and will continue to meet, we will choose the exact location and the way of the response. But it will happen. It will take place.
And then the event this afternoon, did you invite the Secretary General or any other UN officials to attend?
We invited ambassadors, and we expect the participation of dozens of ambassadors. You know that the situation with the SG, I would say, is sensitive. Even though we appreciate the video he put forward before October 7th, it was well received in Israel. But the last year was hard. It was hard because we felt that Israel is not treated the way it should be treated, and we were disappointed during that year.
And then can you just clarify, has he been PNG by Israel?
Excuse me?
Has he been made persona non grata by Israel?
So there was a statement made, and as I said earlier, we will evaluate the relationship. We are here at the UN, we work with the UN agencies, but we were disappointed.
Ambassador, it's Pamela Falk from U.S. News.
Ambassador, could we just ask you about Netanyahu's call with President Biden? Can you give us any sort of readout? How close is Israel to having decided what its targets will be vis-a-vis Iran, and when that might happen?
So the readout will come out shortly of the call, but it was a positive call, and we appreciate the support of the US. And as we stated earlier, Israel will retaliate for the attack, and I want to make it clear, it was the largest attack in history, what we experienced last week coming from Iran. We will choose the locations. It will be painful for the Iranian regime. Thank you very much.
Exploding Hezbollah pagers and electronic devices was only the opening salvo of Israel's Northern Arrows operation. Now, after decimating rocket positions in South Lebanon and eliminating much of the terror group's leadership, the IDF is promising more amazing advanced warfare tactics coming. So that would come of no surprise to our next guest, George Gilder. He's an American investor, author, economist, and co-founder of the Discovery Institute. His latest book is The Israel Test, How Israel's Genius Enriches and Challenges the World. George, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So how is Israel's genius giving the IDF an advantage in this battle against Hezbollah?
Well, it's obviously with Israel's genius that contrived the contraptions that allowed them to attack specifically the Hezbollah operatives all over southern Lebanon, devoted to destroying Israel and killing the Jews there. I mean, Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, said that he welcomed the creation of Israel because it meant all the Jews would be in one place where they could kill them together and make it easier for them to kill the Jews. And so this is the kind of enemy that Israel faces, and its response is creativity in the image of their creator. They lead the world in missile defense, in microchips, in microchip metrology, and biotech, and all these different areas, and they make possible the dominance of American companies in the world economy. The NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA is now a $3 trillion valuation on good days, and NVIDIA makes the chips behind all these artificial intelligence breakthroughs that are currently resulting in America's stock market, dominating world stock markets. 70% of the market value of companies in the world comes from the United States, and they are companies that are dependent on Israel for their critical path technology. NVIDIA could not be the chief chip company without its ownership of the Israeli company Mellanox. And the head of Mellanox is E.L. Waldman, lost 2 children in that October 7th attack.
George, the exploding pagers incident shocked the world and Hezbollah. What other advanced warfare surprises do you think may lie ahead? You're familiar with this Israeli technology, so what technology are they most capable?
Well, today, surprisingly enough, China and Russia both have hypersonic missiles, which render obsolete all the missile defenses we have in the United States. Israel is now launching Iron Beam, which zaps hypersonic missiles at the speed of sound with laser beams at the speed of light, and bring light to the heathen and the missiles in the atmosphere and destroy them. That's an unexpected breakthrough that Iron Beam, complementing their Iron Dome, and that will benefit the United States and the entire world.
Georgia, you know that Israel has received a lot of criticism around the world for its war in Gaza and now the war against Hezbollah. So amidst all the political rhetoric and hate, what do you want people to know about Israel and its people?
Well, Israel is really the leader of Western civilization today. It's their new movement of primitive, reactionary, malignant forces, and Israel is combating them. Think of Hitler during the Second World War. Nasrallah distributes copies of Mein Kampf. It's a bestseller in many parts of the Middle East, and it's the inspiration for the attacks on Israel. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want a two-state solution. They want to kill Jews, or many of them are concentrated near Hezbollah, where they can be attacked.
Okay, amazing technology. The book is The Israel Test. Israel's genius enriches and challenges the world. George Gilder, it's a pleasure discussing this with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Members of the Israeli Defense Force have come forth because they are extremely concerned about what is going on in Israel. They testify how the military in Israel is the most advanced high-tech army in the entire world. They also reveal how the borders between Israel and Gaza are the most heavily secured borders anywhere on earth. High-tech sensors alert the Israeli Defense Force from the moment that even a small animal approaches the borders. Yet hundreds of Hamas fighters were not only able to approach the border, but they blew up the fences. They entered Israeli territory and started destroying homes and burning down villages and killing Israeli people without any semblance of defense by the Israeli military. Turns out that shortly before this attack, the government had ordered the removal of all military presence from that area. Hamas was literally given a free pass to enter and start their operation. In the next videos, you will hear former members of the Israeli Defense Force explain that something very, very, very concerning is going on in Israel.
שתפו את הסרטון הזה כמה שיותר, כי תקשיבו רגע, אני שירתתי כסמב"צית חי"ר במהלך מלחמת צוק איתן, אני שירתתי באוגדת עזה, כל השירות שלי היה תומכת לחימה בזמן מלחמת צוק איתן שעזה הייתה באוגדת עזה. תקשיבו לי ותקשיבו לי טוב, אין מצב בעולם שיכולה להיות כזאת התקרבות לגדר, אוקיי? מבלי שאנחנו לא נדע מזה. התצפיתניות יושבות בבונקרים 4 שעות, הן לא יכולות לעשות ככה, הן מול מסך. לא יכול להיות מצב, שום מצב, שהיו מעירים אותי בלילה על יונה. על חסידה שהתקרבה לגדר, על מקק שעבר מתחת לגדר, היו מקפיצים את כל הגזרה. איך נכנסו עם טרקטורים, 400 איש ואף אחד לא שם לב.
October 7th, 2023. This is Efrat Fenigzon, and I'm here to share an update from Israel-Hamas war, which started this morning. Apparently, Israeli defense forces that were supposed to be around Gaza were placed around the West Bank because of security concerns, so that the Gaza envelope was left unoccupied with military. They say around 60 to 80% of that area was left without the IDF forces that were supposed to be there. A year ago, there was a military operation in Gaza to prepare for such events, and ongoingly there are trainings for these kind of scenarios. This raises serious questions for me anyway about Israeli intelligence. What happened? 2 years ago, there was a successful deployment of underground barriers with sensors to alert exactly on these kind of terrorist breaches. Israel has one of the most advanced and high-tech armies. How come there was zero response to the border and fence breaching? I cannot understand that. Personally, I served in the IDF 25 years ago in the intelligence forces. There's no way, in my view, that Israel did not know of what's coming. A cat moving alongside the fence is triggering all forces. So what happened to the strongest army in the world? How come border crossings were wide open? Something is very wrong here. Something is very strange. This chain of events is very unusual and not typical for the Israeli defense system. The current government is highly corrupt in my view, while the previous one was no better. I don't care about having a popular opinion. I care about exposing evil forces wherever and whomever they are. So to me, this surprise attack seems like a planned operation on all fronts. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say that this feels like the work of the deep state. It feels like the people of Israel and the people of Palestine have been sold once again to the higher powers that be. At the same time, this is still very, very difficult to fathom.
How come the strongest army, the strongest intelligence, the most sophisticated intelligence in the world, in Israel, makes it possible for few hundred Hamas fighters to enter Israel and make all of this happen, while in that area the Hamas fighters did not meet Israeli army or any defense or any protection or anything, as if the Israeli government was planning to offer the Hamas fighters this whole area on a silver plate. This, is not logical. Israel has the most sophisticated intelligence, has a strong army, the strongest in the Middle East, and allow something like this. So there is more behind it. Israel has sacrificed its own people, sacrificed the civilians on the borders of Gaza, took away the protection, took away the army, and allowed Hamas to do what they did.
The following footage was released by Hamas. Here we can see them place explosives on the fences that are extremely heavily secured with high tech, but not a sign of Israeli response. They blow up the fences on several places. Here you have an aerial view of how they are breaking through and destroying the infrastructure. We can even see how they are literally entering onto Israeli territory with their vehicles full of armed soldiers. And not a single attempt of the Israeli Defense Force to stop them in any way. They literally received a free pass to enter into Israel. They can even drive on the roads of Israel. This is another video released by Hamas showing how they are able to blow up the security fences and enter Israel unhindered. We have to understand that this is not some massive army invading Israel, it's basically a low number of terrorists. The incredible, powerful military of Israel could have stopped them in a breeze, but they didn't. So what is really going on here? Why was there no response from the Israeli Defense Force when armed soldiers from Hamas entered Israeli territory, even blowing up the fences and going deep into Israel and starting to burn down villages and kill people and kidnap people? Why was the Israeli military removed from that whole area right before this attack? Why was the mainstream news media instructed not to be honest to the public, and why did they wait for 12 hours to inform Israel? There is clearly something very, very nefarious going on here, a criminal operation at government level of the worst kind. The question is, what is their agenda? What is the purpose? I believe that the answer is given by this letter that was sent by the government coalition in Israel to Prime Minister Netanyahu. It shows that they demand an immediate invasion into Gaza and a complete seizing of control of that whole area that belonged for the past decades to the Palestinian people. And indeed we see that immediately Israel responds and does something that they have been wanting to do for decades. A complete all-out attack on Gaza, where 2.5 million innocent Palestinian people live. Families like you and me, mommies, daddies, children, grandfathers, grandmothers, just beautiful people. They are being bombarded, they are being murdered en masse. This is homicide of the worst kind. And this invasion by Hamas is the perfect excuse to accomplish this.
بس المربع كله المربع اللي قالوا يخلوه ضربوه.
What every person in the world should know is that more than half of the 2.3 million people in Gaza are children younger than the age of 15. This means that Israel is now bombing more than 1 million young children.
شامل وواسع في هذا المكان، عشرات الصواريخ، تقريبا 50 غارة كانت فجر اليوم على هذا المكان، على بيوت المواطنين.
اسحب شهيد 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 اللي عاش في قلب المخيم، في قلب المخيم. ننقل لكم الصورة من قلب مخيم جبالة. نحن الآن في الترانس تحديدا، شهداء بالعشرات وجرحى. هذا هو ما يحدث الآن في غزة في مخيم جبالة تحديدا. هذا سوبر ماركت رابعة سابقا.
The destruction that is being unleashed on 2.5 million families, mummies, daddies, children, grandfathers, grandmothers, uncles, nieces. I use these words to get my point through. These are people who live there in Gaza, and now Israel is wiping them out. They are destroying thousands and thousands of families under the excuse of a Hamas attack. On top of that, Israel cut off all water, power, gas and food from these 2.5 million people. Here we can see utter darkness in the entire Gaza area. Hundreds of thousands of families have no drinking water, have no electricity, no gas and no food. What is really disturbing is that less than 2 weeks before Israel launched their attack on Gaza with the purpose of permanently eliminating it, Netanyahu showed a map during the General Assembly at the United Nations. This map is called the New Middle East. When you look at Israel, then the Palestinian regions have been completely removed. There is no sign anymore of any Palestinian presence on the map of the New Middle East that Netanyahu showed less than 2 weeks before they launched their attack on Gaza. With every false flag operation, it is always the same principle. Some entity wants to commit a horrendous crime, but they don't want to be blamed for it. So they have to use another entity to shift the blame to. In this case, it is very clear. They use Hamas. Hamas is supposedly the bad actor here. And all Israel does supposedly is defend itself. So now they have the right to do something which they have wanted to do for decades. Completely eradicate the whole Gaza Strip and commit horrendous homicide on the Palestinian people. The next question we then have is, why would Hamas cooperate with Israel? In the next clip we probably find the answer. US Senator Ron Paul exclaimed in the US government that Hamas is actually an organization that is set up by Israel, financed by Israel, to work for Israel.
You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat.
What Senator Ron Paul said is confirmed by a man called Ronald Bernard. He worked at a high level in the so-called financial elites, the most wealthy and most powerful in this world, who control the world theater behind the scenes. He explains how terrorist organizations are essentially funded by the same sources that also fund the organizations that supposedly fight those terrorists.
Which is not surprising, considering they are involved in the flows of money. Those are your clients. You also have governments to deal with, multinationals. You have to deal with secret services, and what they now call terrorist organizations. You get all of the groups that are involved with the big money as clients. Then you start seeing the connections, so they might be compartmentalized as you just mentioned, regarding knowledge. But because I am in the middle, I see how they relate to another. You see the money coming from this place, then going to that place, etc. You keep gaining information and thereby an overview of what is really going on.
So do you have to serve and keep all of those groups happy, including terrorist organizations? You were trying to keep everybody happy?
Yes.
My God.
That was my job.
Keeping all the balls in the air.
Yes, indeed. So one of the things that I found out, I did not know that before, but now I do, is about secret services. You think they are there to serve and protect a people, country, etc., but they actually turn out to be the criminal organizations, to be more precise. The system is heavily so. We are talking about financing wars, creating wars, so basically creating a lot of misery in this world. So, lots of conflict. And then I think to myself, if only people knew what the world is really like. Secret services will stop at nothing. Nothing. But they also have their flows of money, because if they are trading in drugs or weapons or, for that matter, people, all that money has to go somewhere. Everything has to be financed.
You say if, but you could confirm they are doing this?
All of them. All of them.
You can view the full interview with Ronald Bernard on the website stopworldcontrol.com/Bernard. He explains much more about what's really going on in our world, behind the scenes of the puppet theater that is put up for the public. Because it is a puppet theater indeed.
This surprise attack seems like a planned operation on all fronts.
אין מצב בעולם שיכולה להיות כזאת התקרבות לגדר, אוקיי? מבלי שאנחנו לא נדע מזה.
Israel has sacrificed its own people, sacrificed the civilians on the borders of Gaza.
Since they started their invasion of the land of Palestine more than 80 years ago, several hundreds of thousands of people have been murdered by the Israeli forces. And as you can see on this map, they have gradually been stealing all their land, their farms, their vineyards, their homes, all their possessions. And then ultimately they locked up these people in Gaza, which is the largest open-air prison in the world, with the highest suicide rate in the world, because life is so unbearable there. There is something very important that we all need to realize concerning Hamas. Hamas was created so that Israel could play victim. Israel is the actual aggressor who invaded a peaceful region, murdered hundreds of thousands of people, stole all their land, their homes, their farms, their vineyards, all their possessions, and locked them up in open-air prisons and in areas where these people are terrorized every day of their life. Still, a majority of humanity looks at Israel as if they are the victims. That is the success of Hamas. And this is how psychological operations work, that are run by intelligence agencies to manipulate mankind. Here you see footage from Palestinian people before the invasion by the Zionists. These are no terrorists, these are no dangerous people, these are just happy families, just like you and me. A former soldier from the Israeli Defense Force explains how they literally terrorized these millions of people on a daily basis.
What most haunts you and your conscience about what you did in your time as a soldier?
For me, it's the routine way we control the Palestinians, right? A Palestinian can wake up in the morning and not know if he will be at work on time, go to sleep, not know if soldiers will invade his home. We basically control the most simple and basic elements of life.
It's designed to break down the population of Palestinians and show them who's in charge and humiliate them on a daily basis.
Exactly. How can we make 2.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank to feel that they cannot lift their head up? We will make them understand that we control their lives. The segregated roads and the settlements and so forth, they exist all around the occupied territories. Military activity, home invasions, patrols, digital surveillance, they exist here and they exist all over the West Bank. The difference in Hebron is that in a very short walk, we can see examples of all of it.
All of it.
All of
we
it.
saw all of it.
The United Nations says that 251 Israelis lost their life compared to 5,590 Palestinians that were killed between 2008 and 2020. A member of the European Parliament from Ireland, however, says that the numbers are much higher.
More than 150,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed or injured in Gaza and the West Bank since 2008. 33,000 of those were children.
But what is truly behind the invasion of the land of Palestine and the stealing of the land of millions of people and murdering and torturing them? What is the deeper agenda behind all of this? We find the answer when we look at the entities who are behind the establishing of the State of Israel. It is the family of the Rothschilds. On their own official website, they brag how they are the ones who financed the rebuilding of Israel. They are the ones who made Israel possible. So who are the Rothschilds? And why did they spend billions of dollars to invest in the building of a new political and military state of Israel? The Rothschilds are amongst the most wealthy people in the world. Their fortune is estimated to be several trillions of dollars. That is several thousands of billions of dollars. That makes them basically the most powerful people in the whole financial and banking system of this world. They operate, for example, from within the city of London, not to be confused with London City. London City is the city that we all know. It is London, where people live and where tourists visit. The city of London, however, is a small area of 1 square mile within the heart of London City. The city of London is the financial center of the entire world. And there is something highly significant about the city of London. This small area of 1 square mile is a sovereign state. It is not subject to the laws of England, nor the United Kingdom, nor the royal family. On the contrary, the city of London actually rules supreme over them. The city of London is the continuation of what we all know as the British Empire. The British Empire attempted to gain world domination. They still essentially own a vast portion of the world, like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, several African nations and many more. The city of London is the headquarters of all the big banks in this world, as well as the headquarters of Freemasonry. The crest or the coat of arms of the city of London shows 2 dragons, and then the helmet of a knight with a wing of a dragon. The Latin creed, translated into English, means Lord guide us. So they show dragons and they say Lord guide us. The dragon in mythology, but also in spirituality, for example in the Holy Scriptures, represents the personification of evil that wants to deceive and rule over all of humanity. The ancient dragon is the symbol of Satan or the devil. It is significant that the city of London is surrounded by 14 statues of a dragon. So the dragon is the #1 symbol within the city of London. This brings us to another element of the Rothschilds. They are known for their...
Masoni evrei sau evrei masoni? Pentru oricine a studiat cât de cât structura francmasoneriei, a observat că aceasta se bazează pe cabala evreiască, folosește drept calendar pe cel ebraic, se bazează pe miturile și legendele din istoria poporului evreu, cum ar fi construirea templului lui Solomon, mitul lui Hiram și așa mai departe. Se mai poate observa și asemănarea dintre simbolul francmasoneriei, compasul și echerul, și simbolul iudaismului, steaua lui David. De asemenea, tacticile și strategiile francmasoneriei în vederea instaurării noii ordini mondiale sunt identice cu cele ale evreilor pentru a conduce lumea în calitate de popor ales. Iar dacă analizăm structura lojilor masonice, vedem că la vârful lor se află lojile exclusiv evreiești. Mai trebuie amintit și că marele maestru mason Albert Pike, de gradul 33 și suveran mondial al francmasoneriei de rit scoțian, a subordonat aceste loji exclusiv evreiești către Alianța Universală Israelită. Concluzia poate fi una simplă. Francmasoneria este creația unor evrei ce au ca scop pregătirea noii ordini mondiale în cinstea venirii mult așteptatului lor Mesia, care de fapt nu este altcineva decât Anticristul. Și fiți atenți mai departe, o scrisoare trimisă de Baruch Levi lui Karl Marx, doi iudeo-masoni celebri, după cum știți. Scrisoarea a apărut în La Revue de Paris, pagina 574, la 1 iunie 1928. Și citez: poporul evreu va fi propriul său Mesia. El va atinge dominația mondială prin dizolvarea celorlalte rase, prin abolirea frontierelor, prin anihilarea monarhiilor și prin instituirea unei republici universale în care evreii vor fi conducătorii de mâine, fără a întâmpina vreo opoziție. Guvernele diferitelor popoare care vor forma Republica Universală vor cădea fără nicio dificultate în mâinile evreilor. Atunci va fi posibil pentru conducătorii evrei să desfințeze proprietatea privată, făcând peste tot uz de proprietatea de stat. În acest fel, promisiunea din Talmud în care se spune că atunci când va veni timpul să vină Mesia, evreii vor avea în mâinile lor proprietatea întregii lumi și va fi îndeplinită această promisiune din Talmud. Am încheiat citatul. Francmasoneria a stat la originea bolșevismului criminal rus, înființând ziarul Izvestia și înființând partidele comuniste în Europa, acolo unde există și astăzi unele dintre ele. În România, contribuția evreilor la înființarea Partidului Comunist a fost esențială. Francmasoneria și-a creat de asemenea un sistem de submasonerii din care Liga Drepturilor Omului și Ordinul Templierilor. Iar anul masonic se suprapune cu anul ebraic. Scriitorul evreu Mesnil Merini prezicea în 1878 atotputernicia statului Israel. El scria, citez: în această perioadă de început, aurul are putere nemărginită. Nu este aurul acela care decide între pace și război. În consecință, stăpânul aurului va fi stăpânul lumii, adică a finanțelor. Cine alții vor fi stăpânii lumii dacă nu evreii? Ei sunt aceia care au azi monopolul băncilor, monopolul căilor ferate, monopolul comerțului. Puternici în calitate de stăpâni ai aurului, ei transmit copiilor lor misiunea de a se ridica tot și tot mai sus. Ei vor asigura copiilor lor primele locuri în artă, literatură, știință și posturi publice. La Sorbona sau Collège de France nu sunt ei cei mai buni profesori. Cine sunt cei mai marcanți autori de teatru? Evrei! Cine sunt cei mai cunoscuți filozofi și literați? Evrei! Corupția în presă nu este o enigmă pentru nimeni. Cine sunt aceia care pun în mișcare această teribilă mașinărie a cărei putere poate să distrugă sau să înalțe? Evrei! Apropiata ascendență a Ierusalimului pe culmile gloriei este aproape sigură. Noi lucrăm de secole în această direcție. Nimeni nu li se poate împotrivi. Noi vom vedea curând, chiar dacă pare fenomenal, că statul Israel, după ce va ajunge în posesia tuturor evreilor lumii, va domina, se va extinde și va crește, alungând popoarele ca pe o cireadă. Numai orbul nu vede viitorul minunat ce stă în fața poporului evreu. Dragilor, asta este masoneria și ăștia sunt evrei. Nu eu am spus, eu doar am citat. Atâta tot. Concluzia este a voastră. Totul se întâmplă ziua de astăzi. Ei conduc peste tot. Masonii și evrei, evreii și masonii sau împreună sau aceeași entitate fiind.
Hey, shalom everyone. This is Amir Tsarfati. I'm finally able to speak to you on video. I just wanted to give you an update on what is going on. And, you know, last time I was here on video, I told you Israel is about to strike in Iran. And the moment has arrived in exactly 4 hours ago. Exactly 4 hours ago, Israel began the most daring operation in our history. And the reason is we attacked in Iran, in Tehran, in all across Iran, in waves of attacks that are not over yet, in synchronization between fighter jets, fighters on the ground, drones, refueling planes, reconnaissance planes. This is an operation we've been planning and exercising for many, many years. And it began with the first blow at 2:58 a.m. Now it's 7 a.m. So, it's 4 hours ago. It all started. 2:58, so 3 a.m. basically. The sirens went off all across Israel to let the Israelis know that there is a war. Now, it's not that rockets were launched. We didn't have to run to protected areas because of rocket launch, but we were told basically in the most efficient way, stay tuned, a war just broke out with Iran, and you have to be careful and don't leave the house, stay next to protected areas. So the entire family ran to the bomb shelter, of course, and then we were updated. Now, by the way, while I'm talking to you, we might have sirens going off if the Iranians will start shooting. But let me explain what happened, okay? Because a lot of people don't understand what happened. So over the last few days, if you were following me on social media, especially on Telegram, you knew that the chatter about an Israeli strike, was through the roof. A strike is imminent, a strike is coming, a strike is coming. And then through this whole thing, the Iranians basically said, a dog that barks will not bite, basically. In other words, they're just talking, and it's a bluff. And this whole thing is just to put pressure on us for the coming round of talks between America and them. So the Iranians did not buy this, which exactly what we wanted them. We wanted them to think that this is all bluff. And they did think it's all bluff. That's the thing. Now, and then came the other diversion operation, which is the Americans said, we're going to have another round of talks this coming Sunday in Muscat in Oman. And we hope that we'll reach a deal. During that time, Israel hosted the Argentinian president. Everything looked like business as usual. Prime Minister Netanyahu took him to the Western Wall, and Javier Milei gave a very celebratory speech at the Knesset. Everything was business as usual. And that was yesterday. So the Iranians are now convinced that if anything will ever happen, it cannot happen before Sunday or Monday. And this is why the generals, the commanders, did not find a secure place. They slept in their army bases, but not under the ground or anything. And at 2:58, Israel began targeted strikes on the residences of the chief of staff of the Iranian military, the head of the emergency operations in Iran, which is basically the commander of all forces once there is a war. We took him out as well. We took out the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. We took out the closest advisor to the president, to the supreme leader of Iran. We took out all the top scientists who were at the moment working on the bomb. And when Israel surprised them in their beds and they're gone, Israel began massive wave of strikes on 3 different types of targets. One, we are talking about the nuclear facilities in Natanz, in Fordo, in Qom, Isfahan. And the other one was ballistic missiles area, like in Kermanshah and in other places, Tabriz also. And we're also hitting some critical infrastructures as well. We already finished 4 waves of strikes, and now we're engaged in getting the 5th one. Israel declared that this is a special operation. We used the code name Am Kelavi, a people like a young lion. This is taken from what Balaam said in Numbers 23, verse 24. It's very interesting because Netanyahu wrote that verse in his note at the Western Wall yesterday. No one imagined that's going to be the name of a military operation. And folks, Israel, again, eliminated top commanders, top scientists, close advisors to the supreme leader, and we have damaged critically the Natanz facility. We're now attacking also in Fordo and also in Isfahan. You know, I think yesterday I told you time is, the clock is ticking and these are the main sites we need to strike. Israel is going all in, all in. We are about to cripple the Iranians. Now, the Iranians were shocked. By the way, when I say Iranians, I'm talking about the Islamic Republic. The people are happy, believe it or not. Many people are very happy. And this is their chance maybe to somehow try to topple the regime. We are 4 hours into this operation right now. 4 hours into the operation, and we continue. I don't know if you can hear, but I live next to airbase. Non-stop takeoffs and landings. What we do when dozens of aircrafts are taking off, they fly all the way. They need to refuel on the way back because they don't have enough fuel to fly back. But they also drop all of their ammunition, so they need to fly back, land here, rearm, refuel, and take off again. Almost 2/3 of the Israeli Air Force is now attacking in Iran. We're talking about unprecedented attack in a distant target. And it will have to continue, and let me explain why. Some of those sites are so deep under the ground that one wave of bunker busters will not be enough. You will penetrate only 1/3 of the depth. You need another one, and you need another one. Sometimes you need 5 different waves to reach the actual facility under the ground. So we're planning on at least a week of non-stop attacks. Now, we're not fools. We know that the Iranians are going to retaliate. We actually expect a barrage of anything between 300 to 600 ballistic missiles to be launched at us. And this is, by the way, where we could use a lot of help from America and other allied forces in this region. Guys, we are ridding the world from the biggest headache in the Middle East, the nuclear program of Iran. And when Iran is crippled, the Houthis will be crippled. So if you want to solve the problem of the Houthis from Yemen, take care of the head of the snake first. And that's what we're doing right now. And as and you can see the Houthis are not launching rockets yet because they are reassessing the situation themselves. Now, I'm not saying there won't be launches towards Israel. There will be, for sure. But we are finally, after so many years, this is what Benjamin Netanyahu became prime minister for. This is his life mission, is to rid Israel from the Iranian nuclear threat and to bring peace with our neighbors. That's what we are aiming towards. Now, the funny thing is, President Trump said, hey, I was not surprised. I was well informed. I was informed in advance. And I want to encourage the Iranians to come back to the table of negotiations. This is funny because there's nothing to talk about now. If we're destroying the nuclear program, the whole talks are about the nuclear program. Now, the one thing that might help us a lot, so far it's pure Israeli operation. Not a single American fighter jet is participating in it. But we could use help in the coming days in order to seal the deal, in order to have more jets attacking and attacking and attacking, non-stop attacks until the entire ballistic missiles and nuclear program is wiped out. These are big challenges. Iran is holding thousands of ballistic missiles that can reach Israel, but they can also reach any American base in the area. It's very interesting. The only country, Arab country, that is openly criticizing the Israeli strike, the only one, is Oman. And that tells you how much the Omanis are not really mediators. Of course they work for Iran. Of course they are collaborators with Iran. But everybody else is smiling. Finally, for the Saudis, Emiratis, the Bahrainis, even the Qataris, I don't know. But finally, the Shiite monster is not anymore that much of a big deal. You know, for many years I've been teaching Bible prophecy. And for many years I've been teaching that Iran will not strike or, come against Israel all alone because it won't be able to. It might retaliate now, but Iran will have to wait until there is a bigger coalition led by Russia with Turkey, and that's the Ezekiel war, and that's when Persia will join and try to avenge what we see right now. So, unbelievable thing. For 4 hours, I'm glued to the news and I report news. I don't know if you're not on my Telegram channel, you really need to be. I have unbelievable videos, maps and photos and information about everything that is going on. You need to go there. I've got 610,000 subscribers, maybe more. I have blue check mark. So don't follow the fake channels that bear my name, because it's not me. And I'll keep you posted, folks. But it's unbelievable what's going on here. Now, of course, we're in full synchronization with the US. Netanyahu and Trump are fully coordinated. All the fake news of the liberal progressive left, as if there is some sort of some tension between the two leaders and they're not synchronized, they don't see things the same way. This was all, it's fake. Not only it was fake news, but the Iranians themselves bought that crap. And then it worked for us because we needed to put them to sleep. And they were asleep at 3 a.m. when we strike. So guys, go to my Telegram channel. I'm going to finish this right now because I have to go back to Telegram, keep posting more and more things. On my Telegram, you can see who are the people that we have eliminated. Quite a lot, quite important people. And we're not done yet. Waves of strikes continue in Tehran, in Kermanshah, in Tabriz, in Isfahan, in Qom, in Iraq, where the heavy water reactor is, and of course in Natanz. Unbelievable things. Go to my Telegram channel, subscribe, follow. It's free and it's super informative. Until then, pray for Israel. Thank you, and God bless you.